Life is scary. Life is limited. So I don't care about who you are, how strong you are. You don't know when you're not going to be here. So the only opportunity that you have, see, I can get metaphysical with the fact of the matter is there's no such thing as time. It's only called the present. It's called the past because you compare it to what will be the present because they're all relative. There's no future. It's called the present because that's also as compared to. So everything is present. And what present means? A gift. It's a gift. This is a gift. So what we're going to turn around and freaking, delay it? Today we had an opportunity to test our intestinal fortitude and perseverance. It took us almost 2 hours, about 4 different takes for this to happen. So you got an attitude of success. We spoke about it. We're martial artists. You think I'm going to get discouraged? Heck no, that's not going to happen. So when the average person doesn't have that attitude, then there's something wrong with us. Damn, that guy's too pushy, bro. Yo, he didn't take no for an answer. Yo, I was trying to chill. Yo.
The show starts in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3.
Houston, we have no power. Come on.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Flash Talks, history worth listening to. This evening, we have another special guest by the name of Jerry FastFeet Fontanez, or let's say Grandmaster Fontanez. B-boy, martial artist, actor, stuntman, improv master, mentor, and an icon in the martial arts world and the hip-hop culture. Born in Manhattan and raised in the boogie down Bronx, Puertorican descent, and this brother has worked with Chuck Norris in the past in commercials, Billy Blanks from Tybo, if you guys remember that, former member Rocksteady Crew. He used to have a TV show called the Fontanez Karate Show. This brother used to have so many schools all around New York City. He's been on TV and was voted for the top 10 fighters in Karate Illustrated. He also appeared in Wu-Tang Clan's music videos. Oh man, this guy has a big record. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Jerry FastFeet Fontanez. It's such an honor just to have you here on the show. You don't even understand. Like, I'm so excited. You've been one of those brothers that I've seen since I was a little kid. I used to watch you in tournaments on TV. I seen you in the breaking world. Like, and just imagine me being 5 years old, going to different tournaments, and we know the same people from just different angles, but we never met face to face and we never hung out. But dude, I already feel like we're family already with just so much history we have together. But So this is what I want to do. I want to start off. I want to start off because it can't get more hip hop than this right now. It can't
Yeah,
get
that was
more
one of
hip
my
hop than
sisters right there too. Again, I'm in the Boogie Down Bronx in the project, so this is just the way we got to do things. Keeping it real.
Hey, that's how the way it is, and it's all good because this is what you call hip hop. But we're gonna start it off from the top. How were you introduced into the hip hop culture? And I want you to tell me, like, when you were like 10 years old, before you even saw graffiti, before you even saw b-boys and b-girls, before you saw DJing. Talk to me about like how it all started for you. Like, take me back, take all of us back.
Okay, so I'll go back to Spanish Harlem and Barrio. Back in the days, the only music you can hear was on AM stereo. So we were singing to stuff like Raindrops Keep Falling on My Head, all those classic songs. But when I heard the song, oh, Kung Fu Fighting, yeah, forget about it. Things are completely different. You, come
Yes.
on, Hong Kong Fooey, number one super guy. You know, so television was always the key. But I come from a family of dancers. My mother, yeah, she's the original FastFeet, nicknamed Tuti. My cousins were the Renegades of Harlem, her 19 between second and third. And they were infamous for doing some notorious, things. But what's crazy is that Eddie Torres is the Mambo King, and that was the guy that was my mother's dance partner when they were teenagers. His sister Pee Wee, my mom were really tight. So seeing my mother dance and my grandma, so my mother was dancing what would be the first years of salsa, but my grandmother was a mambo dancer. And for those of you who don't realize, mambo is really Cuban African jazz that intertwined a whole bunch of fusions of music. And then the American version, so you had Mario Bausa and Machito. These guys came over to America, to the South Bronx, to the Prospect Palace, which was like the equivalent to the Palladium from Manhattan, but in the Boogie Down Bronx. And salsa was created by guys like Willie Colon, who never even spoke Spanish until years after. Of course, he got Hector Lavoe, and so on and so forth. So growing up, listening to all that music, I wasn't too happy about it, to be honest with you, but my mother also played Motown. And that's what I love. I love any and all of the Motown sound, because to me, at the time, listening to the salsa was kind of corny to me because I wanted to speak English and not Spanish, even though I spoke both. So we moved up to the Boogie Down Bronx in 1971 when this group called the Young Lords took the garbage across the Avenue and they freaking got it burnt. Props to my man Felipe Luciano and Juan Gonzalez, because both those guys did some music for me years after. But we moved up to the Bronx in 71, and it was crazy because that's when I started seeing more gangs. The Black Spades, the Nomads, the Savage Nomads, the Outlaws, the Skulls. And then they always had a baby version of those things. So they had like the Savage version, which are like the adults, then they had the young version, which is the teens, and then they had the baby version. I never got down with any of those gangs because my mother wouldn't allow me to, and I didn't really want to be having to look behind my back all the time. But in that same year, 1971, this other thing happened that was crazy. This movie came out called Five Fingers of Death. It was the first international movie that they actually had, and we saw it at the Lowest Paradise over, oh, oh, at the Lowest Paradise in Fordham Road. So once I seen that, now when I'm playing cops and robbers and they're shooting at me, they can't shoot me because I'm with my iron fist. My boys thought I was crazy, but I'm, yo, bro, you can't get through iron with the bullets. So I was the karate fever boy of my time. So going back to, then shortly after that, of course, we also had, or I should say around the same time, no, let me backtrack a little bit. The Avengers on television had Mrs. Peel. Mrs. Peel did martial arts. Agent 99 on Get Smart, she did martial arts too. And in addition to that, Captain Kirk was kicking people all in the neck and flipping them. So those are my influences that I saw in that. But when I saw Kato with Batman and Robin, which was my favorite show for a long time, had these guys called the Green Horde and Kato come over, I was like, whoa, that was some different stuff. That Kato was in a whole different realm. Then, of course, in 1973, 72, we had a chance to see a movie called Fist of Fury. Even though they called it the Big Boss, so the original name was Big Boss, but we saw Fist of Fury again. Bruce Lee was just on a whole different, speed. During that time, there was also a TV show called Kung Fu, David Carradine. So
Yes.
So the TV exposure were the influences, and I always thought that martial arts was like a superhero. For some reason they could jump higher, they could run faster, they could do things. Now they might have been small, but they can beat people twice their size. And I was a sick kid. I was born in the Mount Sinai Hospital, and my first 2 years, my first 2 birthdays were in the children's ward because I was chronically asthmatic. I was born with some spots in my lungs, and I had 5 pneumonias by the age of 2. So I always knew that. I always felt that my disadvantage was going to be my health, but that's why I focused on that. So my biggest secret is that, even in the martial arts world, I knew that I was healthier internally because I haven't eaten red meat since 1988, as an example. So I was able to do things, make decisions accordingly, to make sure that I increase the possibility of kicking ass and looking good in the process.
Yes,
which is
yes.
what it was. But in terms of so around 1974, I'm a real good ice skater and a swimmer during that time. And I'm in the block that's, pretty decent block, not too far from Yankee Stadium. By 1975, I hear about this crew called the L Brothers. I'm like, what the hell is the L Brothers? And as it turns out, that was a super crew. The L Brothers had these guys that became eventually 2 different crews. They became Grandmaster Flash in the Furious 5 and Grand Wizard Theodore in the Fantastic 5 before they changed their name to the Fantastic Freaks. So I'm listening to what would have been this music via cassette tape, probably around 75, 76. Now in 76, I joined a martial arts school, an official martial arts school. Now by that time, I was already doing, the basement workouts and the rooftop workouts and let's meet us in the park workouts. Age 7, 8, 9, 10 years old. At 10 years old, I joined the school, with my father's VA check. I met my father the first time, 1975, at the Federal Building downtown. he was doing the bid, but I found out that he had money coming from the government as a Vietnam vet, and he took and gave me money to join the school. April 19th, 1976. It was Sang Soo, Tiger Kim's, Cock Diesel, and I send you a photo, man. That man was just a whole different realm. He used to fly with the greatest of ease, do splits and kicks. So that whole, facade, or I should say, misbelief that muscles will make you tight, man, he proved the exact opposite of that. This is a guy who made Bruce Lee and guys like Jack LaLanne look skinny because he was Cock Diesel, So again, 76, by the time 77 came, all of a sudden, with the blackout, everybody now had equipment, and they were able to buy some DJ equipment. And again, during that time, our block had a crew called the Unstoppable Crew. And the Unstoppable Crew had this dude that started this. He started the Unstoppable Crew called Tila Rock. Years after, he does a song, It's Yours, and he's the first member of Def Jam. So Unstoppable Crew, 164 Sheridan Avenue. Eventually, a lot of the members become, bank robbers of the early 80s, if you guys might remember. And but again, the DJ was the original DJ Louie Lou. It's my mellow. How do you like his DJ? My mellow. He cuts so fine. My mellow. He cuts in half the time. My mellow. Ooh, chihuahua. My mellow. And now repeat after me. A 3, 2, 1. A 1, 2, 3. A music maestro, please. And he starts cutting. Start cutting breaking bells. So DJ Louie Lou. But there was this one guy that was phenomenal. His name was Prince Thunder Rock. Prince Thunder Rock. And he was talking about this dude named Spy that he was working out with. And Thunder Rock was the breaker, the first Bboy of the Unstoppable Crew. He was also an MC for a group called the Come Alive 5, which is another historical, legendary Boogie Down Bronx first generation crew. Except that Thunder Rock was young, so he wasn't supposed to be around with them. And a lot of the things that he had to the side, the whole nine, I know a lot of people give that credit to Spy, at least Crazy Legs does. But Thunder Rock was just like that. His pants were sagging before sagging was in. He was bopping really, really, really hard. It wasn't too big, so the Napoleon concept probably kicked in that he was able to just be extra hardcore. But again, Unstoppable Crew, late 1970s, DJ Louie Lou, Tila Rock, and these guys were notorious because they were part of not just the Zulu, but they were part of the Gestapo. So Zulu had three different generations. So you had Zulu, and you had Gestapo, and then you had the Gigante family. They were part of the Gigante family. Also, a lot of them were Zulu kings. One of the guys from the neighborhood was called Bug Out, which became Bo, and Bo, he ended up, passing away. But the point is that I was all into this thing. So 1976, we do a 4-step, hump the floor, and stand up. That's it. 1976, 1977 in the basement, in everybody's party. DJ Louie Lou was the DJ, and we were just freaking trying to do what we thought was breaking. Now, what was interesting was that, me and Gene Livingston and his younger brother, Theodore Livingston, that's how they became the L Brothers. Well, the L Brothers initially were the Livingston Brothers, and then they changed the name to the Love Brothers. And a lot of people don't realize that Mean Gene was a DJ, but his backup DJ was Grandmaster Flash. And the two MCs were the brothers, the Glover brothers, which was Melly Mel and Kid Creole. But they started to get on the mic because of the rest in peace. His name was Keith Cowboy. Keith Cowboy was grabbing the mic and doing his thing, back in the day. And again, this is on this side of the Bronx. I don't know anything about Bronx film or anything like that during that time because we were on this side of the Bronx. And this
Where in the Bronx? What side? What side of the Bronx?
Right near Yankee Stadium, in the Morris Senior section of the Bronx, right near Yankee Stadium, 161st. Right. Put it like this: when Chris Chambliss hit the home run in 1976 for the Yankees to win the pennant, I was in that field grabbing freaking grass and running home with it when they completed the story there. And I was watching a movie called The Chinese Professionals. And I went and remember that again, right near Yankee Stadium, there's a track, the McCombs Dam Park, there's a track, and that's where we always train. Martial arts, you can always go to just about any park and have somebody do some kung fu back in the days, or karate, whatever it was. And that was my initial influences. But when it came to dancing, my original dance that I could battle anyone with was the click clack. Now the click clack was like the mashed potato. And my mom's phenomenal with the mashed potato, which is a variation of what would be James Brown or the Jefferson when it comes to toe heel, clicking and moving backwards and having some funky, some rhythm. But yeah, man, house parties, you know what that was like, man. You had the strobe light, you had the dancing, and the last song was always and forever. And you
that's telling people get out of here already, right?
Yeah, Saipica.
Yeah, now who were your mentors and teachers at that time? Your mentors and teachers that were kind of guiding you.
Well, remember, anyone in the block that was an elder, you wasn't really guided by one person, you were guided by a village. So you're the young buck, and you got to make sure that you keep what would be the heat away from the block. Because if you bring heat to the block, that could create a problem. When they're selling in the old black door, he's selling the weed. And what was crazy was that the dudes that I always looked up to is the ones that I mentioned, because they were able to actually do things that are legendary. And again, Tila Rock is Tila Rock. Tila Rock's brother is actually Special K from the Treacherous Three.
Oh, okay.
And this is what most people don't realize. That the Treacherous Three, two of the three of them are from Manhattan, Mo D and LA Sunshine. Another thing is, for whatever it's worth, I also sit on the board of Hip Hop Boulevard when it comes to advisory board, because for some reason, since I never smoked weed and messed up my brain, I got good retention when it comes to information. And my man Al Pizarro, who started the first two record pools. A record pool is when the DJ is able to get records without having to go buy them at retail. So
correct.
They get a lot of records from the companies themselves for free. And my man Al Pizarro, I call him a Padrino, has an example. He broke, meaning he was the first person to create this record called Rockin' Ball Disco like 78. Frisco Disco. That was the first record that had multiple colors and stuff like that too. He did that back in 1977. So a lot of the guys, again, a lot of the history or the influence was going to be from listening to cassettes. By the time 1981 came, forget about it. At that point, the live shows are getting big. late 1970s. My mother was even going to Disco Fever, and Disco Fever was the first club, the first real deal club that had not just b-boys, not just MCs that were allowed to actually go in there, but they also used to give, like, if you wanted to go buy a 40, it actually wasn't a 40. Back then, it's still a quart before they went to the 40. Right before they became 40s, you could get a quart of OE right in the freaking club. And it smelled like nothing but dust. That's what my mother said. I wasn't allowed to go, so I didn't go. I'm only 57, so I'm 10 years old in 76. By 77, 78, that club's already happening in the Boogie Down Bronx.
So will you say your mom is one of your mentors?
1000%. My mom was one of my mentors because her dancing, her music influence. Of course, my grandmother also. I was brought up by warrior women. So my examples in terms of how to become sad, how to be a man, meaning tough, it was these women, man. So when I fought in karate tournaments, I wasn't allowed to lose because I didn't want my mom to buy me some panties or humiliate me. You know, you better win the fight when I'm gonna whip your ass. You know, that's like a normal thing. Yes, some people were fortunate enough to have their father say that to them, but in my case, it was my mother. You know, so props to my mama FastFeet.
Props to your mom. Props to your mom.
She's also the person that nicknamed me FastFeet. September of 1981. I went to a karate tournament.
Which it used to be Fearless FastFeet, right?
That's the trivia question, and you got the right answer. Yeah, so what I said was I came home asking the first person, and maybe one of two people I ever asked for an autograph was Bill Superfoot Wallace. I went to a karate tournament in Brooklyn, and at this point, you know, we're on welfare. You know, my father's incarcerated. My mom never lived with him. I was born when my mom was 16, and I became a father at 17. So again, martial arts to me was my vocation to get the hell out of what would have been the ghetto. You know, at least be able to sustain a real lifetime without being a stick-up kid. Which I was kind of pissed off, man, because I think stick-up kids had a lot of props. You know, if you was a bank robber, at least you was able to hang out in the OJs. You know, and the girls liked you. You know, but I was never big into the. But so when my son was when I found out I was gonna be a father at age 16, then everything changed. My first karate school was actually in this building here. There was a Head Start right here, and the dude asked me for me to teach these kids. I didn't want to teach these damn kids, but they asked them adults. I said, listen, I'm not no teacher. I'm 16. I said, but I don't mind sparring. So, I'm a sparring junkie, man. So, you know, that's how I officially became an instructor. And the guy says, well, you know what? You know, why don't you teach these kids? And he convinced me. So I came up with the idea of New York's finest karate academy. And I took a black and white photo with me throwing a kick. And I put that, I sent you the flyer. It says, I sent you the flyer for New York's first sport karate. But I'm gonna send you the one for New York's finest karate academy, because I started New York's finest karate academy in 1982, and I put a lot of people down there. You know, for example, one of the guys that the myth that he was my instructor, but he did give me my first black belt, was this guy named Jonas Nunes, Shihan Jonas Nunes. So Shihan Jonas Nunes, who I knew since he was a green belt, and I was actually a red belt in Taekwondo, and I met him in 77, but, you know, I digressed. He literally was the person who gave me his black belt from around his waist. So he gave me my first black belt. You understand? Wow. I'm at a karate tournament, I'm saying, I'm ready to fight black belt today. And I fought and I won. So
look at that. What year was that?
82. 1982. 82.
So you were already blowing up your name. People are starting to hear your name already, right?
Yeah, so what I'm really doing, according to many, is revolutionizing the industry and driving people crazy, because martial arts being so disciplined, I'm the antithesis of that. Because to me, karate it was cool, but it got corny by the time you got to 12, 13, it got corny real fast. Once you start getting a little woolly, you know, when you start to get a girl. And so I didn't like the idea that they had all this rigorous. First, I didn't like the foreign language bull crap. I came up from Taekwondo and Kung Fu, so when people used to say us to me, I'm like, bro, what are you talking about? It sounded so corny to me. I was like, you know, and for whatever it's worth, I was right because of this. Us is a derogatory or a brash way to disrespect somebody for what would be the Japanese. A Korean guy may I forget his first name, but his last name was Choi. He changed his name to Masuyama. He kicks everybody's butt. He developed a style called Kyokushinkai while being in Japan, being a Korean, and he wanted to say too much, pretty much say like, us, like in your face, because he challenged every style and he was able to beat them. So did his students. Because to this very day, if you go to Okinawa and you bow, they don't say anything. In karate, which means the China hand, not the way the open hand, really comes from Okinawa via Shaolin. So the Japanese did jujitsu, aido, and kendo. They did not do karate until Gishin Funakoshi comes over to Nippon, which is mainland Japan, as invited by Jigoro Kano, who's the person who got credit for judo, which comes from
wow.
Jiu-jitsu. So
now when somebody goes up to you and goes, us, when they do that to you, how you feel now?
I know what they mean from, but I educate them. So I had to come up with a way to feel comfortable without being disrespectful. So I say us one. Us one. But in my school, we were known for bowing and saluting. And the reason we saluted, because in the military, you salute your superior officer. That's how you show respect. So when people were saying, why you guys saluting? I said, because martial is military. And in the military, you salute your superior officers. So I bow for Eastern Hemisphere, and I salute for the Western. So that's how you have the yin and the yang. So everything that I've developed
I've never heard this before. Wow.
Yeah. Well, what it is, okay, so let me just give you the hard truth. And this is what's happened recently, within the last 24 hours, believe it or not. I'm getting a lot of people, I'm getting a handful of people who are giving me credit publicly, and I'm not used to that because in the past, it's always been a whisper. Because what I did was I disrespected a lot of people based on what I did, because it proved that they were using faulty curriculums and mindsets that were just limiting. As an example, the majority of the people that had karate schools, they had them in the PAL or the YMCA in some type of free community program. And I couldn't do that because I wanted to earn income to be able to take care of my son, who was born when I was 17. So when I'm reading Karate Illustrated, I'm like, I want to be in the magazine. I want to get rated. Region 11 was New York, New Jersey. I want to get rated, as opposed to just competing. No, I want to get rated. If I get rated, I can get some money. If I make some money, then I could be a karate school owner, do some seminars, travel the world, be like Superfoot Wireless. Come on, what's up with that? But everyone thought I was crazy because to them, they thought I was impossible. Like, you had to be from California. I was like, listen, I don't know about you, but the advantage of being brought up in the ghetto is that we give people props, but we ain't on their Disney because it's like, what? Bro, everyone puts one, they pass 1 foot at a time. They wake up with bad breath and so on and so forth, bro. So we're not gonna be kissing no damn butt just because of that. So that's the attitude that I have. But at the same time, I also knew that I had to shut up and learn in order for me to become successful in whatever it was. So each one teach one has always been what would be the role model. Because the majority of you that learn how to dance, man, we're 10 years old. We learn it from the 11-year-old, or maybe the 10-year-old that may know a move better than you, or the 12-year-old that's like older now because he's not really hanging out with you, but he's a preteen. By the time they're 13, they don't want to hang with you no more. So for you to be able to be down with them, you had to be no joke. And I was always that young dude, was allowed to be with the elders. They used to call us, hey, what's up, young blood? If they gave you the props, young blood, that means you was down. You was able to hang out and even listen to those people break down knowledge, whatever it was. And I was the guy, even as a little kid in my mother's, house parties, which happened pretty often, right? I was the bartender, 2 fingers of Bacardi, 2 fingers of Bacardi, depending on how everyone wanted their drinks. So all those house parties, I used to get paid for making drinks. So I've always been an entrepreneur. I learned that from my grandmother, you know what I'm saying? So when I got involved in martial arts, I said, I love martial arts, but I don't like some of these things. And I'm 16 years old at the time. As a junior, man, I'm destroying these guys. And I'm hearing people say things to me like, I hear them whispering, yeah, wait until you get to the big boys. I'm like, well, I'm a big boy today. And that's when I fought the first time in the men division. I was 16 because I said, if my mother would have heard that and I wouldn't do nothing, she would have whipped my butt, but she would have more important. And now, I don't mean physically because she could do but so much, but the mouth. Holy crap! And she's gonna
Yeah,
tell
you don't want to
everybody.
disappoint her. You don't want to
Oh,
disappoint her.
that's not allowed. That's not allowed because she wants to make sure that she don't have to worry about her son. Don't be on my mouth and then was the whole freaking thing. Don't be that person. So, going back to my influences in dancing, in kindergarten, I won the dance contest. Any party, I'm the main kid on the floor. I'll send you a photo of me dancing in the birthday party because dancing to me, was just fun. It was just fun. And of course, we know how to dance from the older people, so they hold on to you and then you follow them and so on and so forth. They're the ones that school you if you cool them up, and all those house parties, birthday parties become like, just like the clubs, but then again, because of martial arts, I had juice in the clubs. Every martial arts, the bouncers are martial artists. That's the only time, call me a hypocrite if you want, but that's the only time I use us with a badge of honor. So I go to the front, I go, so whoever look, that means they have their own martial artists.
Okay.
And their own martial artists, I might have juice. To this very day, guys use that. Say, look around to see who looks at you, and just give them a little nod, and they'll come to you. Who you train with?
That is so awesome. Now moving on to like 1993, like around there, when breaking, the whole culture is blowing up. Like,
right,
what was it?
All right, if you don't mind, can we go back to about 81, 82,
Yes,
83
yes.
at the
Yes.
at the
Let's do that.
at the Roxy. Now going back to, that's why I was segueing to what would be juice and martial arts. My boy named Timeout was trying out for this movie called Bad Boys Part 2. The original Bad Boys guys was Esai Morales.
That's right.
Yeah. Anyway, so Timeout was trying out for Bad Boys Part 2, and then his mother told him that there was this other movie called Beat Street that he could try out for. Now Timeout at the time, him and I are like best friends, and he used to work in this place called the Roxy. He was the youngest bouncer at the Roxy. So I had juice at the Roxy. So I would go.
And what was his name? What was his name?
Timeout. He starred in The Last Dragon, baby. Bruce Leroy himself.
That's amazing. Wow.
Yeah. So Timeout is my best friend, even though people call him Time Mac, but it's Timeout. That's the proper pronunciation. But he's the Last Dragon, Bruce Leroy. So 1983, I'm a father. I go to I win the first grand championship. The photo I sent you, there's a photo where I'm with my finger up looking like E.T. phone home. I'm so skinny. You see Timeout the Last Dragon to my right, or the left of the picture, and right below him, you see a skinny Jonas Nunez. I'm the one that won grand champion. Everyone's on stage with me, just for whatever it's worth. It's just the truth. I'm the centerpiece of what would be this championship, and I won that. I took the title away from this guy who had it for 3 years. And I kept it for 3 years until I didn't defend it any longer. That was in New Jersey. So if you fought in New Jersey from New York, you got to get back home. The same way where if you win your trophy and you're in Brooklyn, you got to get back home with that trophy. That's harder sometimes than competing. And people don't understand that. They'll stick you.
And it wasn't little trophies like that, right? No. It was huge trophies.
6 foot trophy, taller than me half the time. So anyway, my problem was that since I was a teenager, and I was already a father, I couldn't go to where I wanted to go to because I had to get a job. And I couldn't go to the Roxy on the weekends because I had to go to the karate tournaments. But the off season of karate was like the summer. So then I could go in the summer to the Roxy. But I worked in a store called Central. Central was in Parsons Boulevard in Jamaican Queens. Right, and that freaking place literally had this crew called the Supreme Team over in Paisley Park, the Paisley Projects. So these dudes had these little mopeds, and this is when the Olympics was happening. They had Lindu suits. Around Lindu had Adidas suits, right? And these dudes, I used to go all the way from the Bronx, all the way to freaking Jamaica, Queens, and I was pissed off because these young dudes was driving around with these mopeds, and I wasn't a stick-up kid, but I wasn't going to stick them up. I didn't want to take the train back home again an hour and a half,
Yeah.
eventually these are the guys, of course, that you found out that had with 50 Cent and so on and so forth. So Supreme used to be there, Righteous, Fat Cat. All these guys are notorious but would be street thugs. But I didn't give a damn. To me, they were corny because they were from Queens and we were from the damn Bronx. So to me, it was like Queens had houses, and we didn't have houses. So by the time 1979 comes, there's no breaking anymore in the Bronx. I went to this place called USA Skating Rink, and they were breaking there. I'm like, yo, what the hell's going on over here? I didn't realize that literally it was just two right here, Dynamic Rockers.
Wow.
The Breakers, Dynamic Rockers were there, and they were the main ones. And there was this crew called the Inferno crew. Inferno and Dynamic Rockers were the ones that were pretty much the main ones there. So in addition to that, so I go back home to the Bronx, and I'm telling I'm telling Thunderrock, Thunderrock, they breaking in Queens. Nah, man, that shit's played out. What? Years after, that's when Legs started going over there and saying that those guys were whack because they didn't have the basics, which is true, but they were doing what today would be considered power moves and things like that, years after. And then the famous battle on what was San Juan Hill, which became Lincoln Park, which is where the stage broke down. And
do you know Mr. Flex back then and Spinner and all of them, or you didn't know?
No. I don't. I know these guys by face there. But I'm not down with the breaking. I'm there for the girls. I'm there for the honeys.
Yes.
I mean, so the answer is no. 1979. If we're talking about, I'm 12 years old. Actually 13 years old. So I'm already a preteen. I'm getting woody. I'm trying to get some girls in Queens. Yes. I'm not trying to dance with no dudes. It took a little while for me to, I'm not trying to dance with no dudes. But by the time 1981 comes and I'm involved in martial arts, like really, really serious, I realized that girls like that too. If you kick some butt, they like you. If you're a champion, they like you. If you know how to run fast, ride a bike good, a skateboard, you're a ghetto superstar, they like you. So my whole so-called hustle was kicking people in the head. When they slap box, I slapped them all up. I went to Taft High School. I got kicked out of Taft High School's GD program, and Taft was #1 dropout school in the nation. So as long as we were #1, it didn't matter if it was positive or negative. So basically, by the time 1985 comes around, this is gonna blow your mind out. This is gonna blow your mind. I went out. I started dating this girl named Nadia. She looked just like the Last Dragon. That was his sister, and I didn't know. So we were over at the Copacabana because, yeah, man. So the Last Dragon sister, Nadia, and I were together for almost 6 years. And but I knew Tama had a sister, but I didn't know she was that bad, So I'm at Studio 54. Studio 54 was on the west side, the east side of Central Park. But this is significant because we were not breaking anymore. There was no breaking. The Roxy became 1018. So from one night to the next, all of a sudden, the same location became what was the new thing. It was called Latin hip hop, which became freestyle.
Okay, I see.
So now all of a sudden, groups that were MCs, like TKA, had to become singers. You know what I'm saying? Because they wasn't accepting the Latinos in music when it came to rapping. Even though, check this out, I'll break this thing down. We're going to the 50th anniversary of hip hop, and a lot of people have very selective memory, and they want to exclude what would be the Latino influence, which is disgusting to me. Because when it comes down to it, I'll even break it down like this. Let's go into what would be the division of hip hop culture that actually got mainstream appeal. It was initially graffiti. And the #1 guy in graffiti was Lee, Mr. Quiñones himself. And the #1 girl was Lady Pink. Again, the Latinos, for whatever it's worth. Okay, now, when they go on that Wild Style tour, all the things are included, including Double Dutch. People don't realize that, okay? Because they're trying to get the New York experience over to the world, which that's why the Europeans have better history than Americans. They don't even know, Americans don't know, because we're off to the next hot thing in a second. Anyhow, but the crazy thing was that Nadia's mother is Loretta Rock. Loretta Rock and her partner Corey were the managers of this group that came from Queens called the Dynamic Breakers.
Okay, now what about the Dynamic Dolls? Were they involved there too?
The Dynamic Dolls. Loretta named Brenda K. Starr, who was one of the Dynamic Dolls.
Wow.
And they did a show.
So you ever meet Kim Kamikaze? Kim?
Yeah, again, all the whether it was Deuce, whether it was Camo, whether it's Flip Rock, no, not Flip Rock, Airborne, Spider, you know, so a lot of those guys were Dynamic Rockers. But the one that was really interesting to me, and I'm going blank on what his breaking name was Felix Cortez. That's my boy who I interviewed, and Felix was partners, believe it or not, with this kid named Kid Nice that we know as not Kid Nice from New York City, not Kid Nice from New York.
Another Kid.
No, bro. Mr. Casanova Raphael's name was Kid Nice. My boy Felix Cortez, who was partnered with Kid Nice, aka King of Rock years after, was part of the Dynamic Breakers. And what was he doing? Windmills with machetes, bro. My man was doing freaking stick fighting and breaking. That's exactly right. And that was on the Fresh Fest. But going back before the Fresh Fest, they had the Swatch Watch contest. The Dynamic Rockers competed there too, and a bunch of crews. But the group that won was the Dynamic Breakers, which was a splinter group from the Dynamic Rockers that did not include a lot of the dudes. But they did have Spider, which was part of the original Dynamic Rockers.
So wait a second. Dynamic Breakers. Who was in Dynamic Breakers that won? Name them.
Okay, you had Camo, and you had Deuce. You had Airborne, you had Spider, and I'm going blank on whoever else. But Spider, Airborne, Deuce, Camo. There might be one more, but they also had the Dynamic Dolls that were down with them. So they were literally. They took first place at the Swatch Watch contest. The individual winner, and that was done at the Roxy, by the way. The individual winner was Mr. Freeze, who won. But second place was my boy Fane Jackson, Rodney. And Rodney and also Clown and myself were taught by the same dude when it came to boogie. Because I went into boogie, right? And that was Magic Motion. It was Magic Mike way before the freaking movie. And that was Mike Acatina, who was our teacher. So this is the
original Magic Mike. And he was
the original Magic Mike from the Boogie Down Bronx. That he was really boogalooing, man. He was doing some floats and stuff that we had never seen before. To this very day, we don't even know where he got it from because he didn't have a teacher. And again, Clown at the time, you could not boogie in the Bronx without Clown battling you. Clown was all over the damn place. And then there was another guy named Mr. Pop that was also taught by Magic, and Mr. Pop's student was Son of Pop. He was the other one that was battling everybody in the damn Bronx. These guys would travel, and if you was a boogie boy, they were taking you out. But anyway, so that's 1985, the Fresh Fest. You know, Dynamic Breakers comes from the Dynamic Rockers. The Dynamic Breakers has a manager, Loretta Rock is the manager. That's Time of the Last Dragon's mother and my mother-in-law at the time. And what ends up happening is that they actually turn around and was doing they do a show called wait. That's Incredible. They did a show called That's Incredible, and they brought on this crew. They brought on a crew called the New York City Breakers, who I think they were the Floor Masters at the time, and then they switched over to New York City Breakers. And those two crews were the ones that were supposed to go. Since they won the Swatch Watch contest, they were supposed to be in a movie called Beach Street.
Wow.
And they never got into the movie. So they used one of the two crews that was down with that, how you call it? And that was the Dynamic Rockers, Dynamic Breakers end up having a problem. And I'm not sure if they wanted too much for the movie or what have you. I think that's what might have been the case. But I know one thing, that the second manager actually got murdered. And so pretty much management, yeah, man, the guy he got murdered. So we're talking about 85, 86 now. But they got the Fresh Fest tour. They were able to go on with Run DMC and the Fat Boys and you know, et cetera, et cetera. You know, Nassau Coliseum 1985 was the last.
And what's the name of the tour? What's the name of the tour?
Oh, it was the first hip hop tour called the Fresh Fest. Fresh Fest.
And did it go all over the world, or was it in New York City only?
It was throughout the United States. The headliner was Run DMC.
Wow.
Number 2 was the Fat Boys, Grandmaster Flash, and then they had the group that was, they had little rappers there, and the Dynamic Girls were doing their thing, but the Breakers, the one that blew me away, see, the Dynamic Breakers, what was different about them, they had like a 4-ring circus at the same time, as opposed to going at one time. And they used to do one thing where they spin, I know you spin the guy, spin deuce by his head. Yeah, which we had never done that. I didn't even know what the hell that was. To me, that wasn't even part of breaking, but whatever it was, it was still cool. You know, it was more like gymnastics or whatever, but it was still a cool thing. You know, but at the time, so in terms of what we thought was number one was on Rocksteady, because they were getting all the, you know, they got all the props from the movies and stuff like that, from like the documentaries, both from Wild Style and Star Wars. Number 2 was New York City Breakers, and then number 3, only because of the public accolades that they were getting on television, was the Dynamic. But it was really Dynamic Breakers that got more props than Dynamic Rockers, because they were able to get more exposure since they got management. Even though years after, probably the best crew might have been, you know, how you call it, Incredible Breakers. Incredible Breakers, that's a possibility that they might have been, you know, they might have been the best. I gotta say possibility.
Do you hear them back then? Do you hear about Chino and Brian, Float, and all of them?
I hear about them years after, because for whatever it's worth, remember by the time I'm gonna sound a little uppity right now, but because what happened was I was backstage at the Roxy because of timeout. I wasn't dancing in the middle or going to the club to get the girlies. I'm not going there to try to break. That's why guys like Ringo says, man, we never really hooked up. I could boogie, I could lock, I could pop, I could break, but I could freak a girl in a second, bro. That was it. I was there for the girls. I wasn't girl for.
And you also a fighter too. And you also a fighter, so
that's what I'm saying. So my whole thing was that I was dancing to enjoy myself, as opposed to try to get a name. I already had a name. By the time 1985 comes, I'm fighting in Madison. You know, how about this? I'm fighting in Madison Square Garden. You know, I'm thinking I really fought. You know, I got my props. I got my ghetto superstar status, hitting people in the head. You know, I can go into clubs for free.
When was this? When was this right here?
That was already late. That was already 1994.
Oh, so this is 94, but look at that. It's so dope. And it's crazy because I remember seeing that magazine. And I didn't even know you. And I remember seeing that. In fact, it might be in my closet somewhere because I have a lot of black belt magazines. Who knows?
Well, let me tell you something. That particular one was in my school on Broadway between 55th and 54th Street. And I did my own photo shoot. I didn't want the magazine to do it because their stuff was whack to me. So that's why. And that photo was shot by Ronnie Wright, who was the star, a photographer to the stars at the time. He was one of my students. And he also did the shot at that same location right there for what would be the Source magazine. He shot the Source magazine photo that had my student MC Fresco, Q Unique, and my brother, rest in peace, Beretta, you know, in the photo shoot for the Source magazine. But again, going back to, see, there's so many damn details, guys, because the truth of the matter is that my school was the epicenter when it came to a lot of the hip hop, freestyle, and martial arts combination, plus martial arts business. So by the time 1985 comes around, I'm already very well known, and breaking's already gone. Now we're dancing freestyle, you know. By the time 1988 comes, actually 1986, I'm fighting in Madison Square Garden against Billy Blanks, you know, and I get my jaw broken, but I'm the first person on stage, only person on stage that's a Latino, only person on stage that's a New Yorker. I become #1 in forms and #1 fighting that year. By the time 1988 comes around, I changed my school from New York's finest karate academy over to New York's first sport karate training center. And I called it New York's first for a reason, because Jonas had copied my New York's finest. I didn't want people to copy. So I said New York's first sport karate. I knew there was going to be a whole bunch of sport karate schools going to pop up. So I described it. That was 1988. In 88, I met this guy named Richie Colon. He was working over in Jackler Lanes, right not too far from Dykeman, up there. And
is that by Bailey Avenue, right? Jackler Lane by Bailey? Across that 225th bridge.
Yeah, so Richie was there, and I looked at him, said, "He looks familiar." Well, Richie Crazy Legs Colon became my boy. So now,
so that's when you start like hanging out and hooking up with Crazy Legs events and doing things.
It's a little different. It's 1988, 89. I'm a business owner. I have a karate school on Zariga Avenue, Boogie Down Bronx. Legs is coming to my school. He's bringing his boy, rest in peace, Buck 4. You know, is around 1990 now. You know, because we've been hanging off, on and off. But hanging out was more like I would go. He would come over to my crib. I would go over to his crib, and I wanted to get, some of the stuff like, I'm acting about breaking. He's not thinking about no damn breaking. This played out. It's over with. It's done. And in the neighborhood, you had German lived in the neighborhood too. German was one of the historical spinners guys. Yeah. But there was this dude that was really, really cool, that we know his name is Stefan Clemente. And Stefan is Mr. Wiggles. And Wiggles lived in the neighborhood too. And eventually his daughter becomes one of my students too. But anyway, so around 1990, I'm hanging out and Legs is showing me these videos. Hey, you, the Rocksteady Crew. And I'm like, yo, all this stuff from Europe I had never seen. And then by the time I break up with my girlfriend, Nadia, around 91. And I asked Legs, 1991, I would go to the freestyle shows because my student, Tony, was the T of TKA. And that's the #1 freestyle crew of all time.
Oh, snap.
Yeah. So Tony, KL, and Angel at this time are the ones that are practicing, and they actually rent my school for practice every morning, right? And they have this guy named Mr. Pop. His name is Darren DeWitt Hayes, who was part of the circus as a dancer, and then years after he became Darren's Dance Grooves. So he was teaching Britney Spears and everybody how to dance. But he was also the group years after that were two of these guys. Okay, the guy that brought Tony from TK over to my school, his name is Angel, and he was part of a group called Trilogy. And Angel brought him over and said that I was going to change his life because Tony was pretty heavy. So I got him in some crazy shape, and they started doing gymnastics and they worked in the routines and so on and so forth. So Duran and Angel, 2 of the 3 members of what would have been Trilogy, and then Darren, who was the choreographer to TKA, we were all that was our crew, and then Crazy Legs. So this is again, and then Time of the Last Dragon, and so everywhere we go, that's not counting all the martial arts guys that are down with me that also are known for other different things, whether they're actors or what have you, like Robert De Niro's son was my student, and around 1991, I asked Legs a question. I said, Legs, Rocksteady in the 90s. And not even 6 months after, this little magazine called The Source magazine that was on Broadway, West Broadway, was doing what they consider the Source Awards, or their first show.
Yep.
And we went on. So Legs says to me, I wasn't doing it to try to be down. I'm a business owner, man. I got almost 300 students.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I got responsibility for my family. Right. Plus, for whatever's worth, my main thing wasn't breaking. I was more like locking, popping, boogieing, and freaking girls. Now, I can still do some moves, no doubt about it. I could do a chair. I could do swipes. I got my 6-step. I could go left side. I could go right side. And I could follow me dance routine, no doubt about that. But I'm not trying to do this for me to be down. But Legs respected me for being his motivator and organizer. Plus, for whatever it's worth, I did a lot of work with Tony Robbins, so I already knew what would have been leadership skills and motivation. And I went to Hawaii, 14 days of seminars, 14 hours a day. I'm walking on fire. You know, I got freaking 300 students. I'm getting ready to open up multiple schools, Brooklyn, Queens. You know, I got people coming from freaking Brooklyn to train me in the Bronx. I open up a school in Brooklyn, and the guy that comes is MC Freshco, the world MC champion, you know, which is crazy.
Wow, that's amazing.
And then they have this guy named Professor Paul, who's the DJ for a group called ESP. And then they have this guy named Jeff Paz, he was my exotic, which you see my karate uniform has graffiti in the back and the whole thing. And exotic is partnered with DJ Enough, which you knew him as Ethan. You know, Ethan was DJ Enough. So I'm in the mix of all this hip hop and just being a New Yorker, so I'm not trying to get down with that, but I want it to happen because I couldn't understand how could we, as what would have been people from New York, let the world, like at the time, Snap had I Got the Power, and that was a huge record. And I remember that was written by Chill Rock G from New Jersey, and they had two versions of the same damn song. So I'm saying this guy from New Jersey and this guy from freaking Germany are making money, and I remember seeing Kool Herc on the damn 5 train. And I'm like, this is crazy. It makes no freaking sense to me how we are. And then it hit me because we were artists, and as artists, we're not thinking about finances. So I went back to the movie Amadeus when people don't think about money, they're just going to express themselves and they get jerked. Then you have to get hit to the curb. And that wasn't my goal at all. As a martial artist, that's what most martial artists were. They were top fighters, but they weren't good at business. And I was good at both. I had a top 10 school. I'm winning world championships while still having a top 10 school earning money and making hundreds of thousands of dollars during the recession in the 1990s in the boogie down Bronx, Brooklyn.
Now,
Queens,
is that around this time? Is that around this time?
Yeah. Well, that time right there, I'm still 18 years old. And I'm still in that same hallway that I'm gonna take that same photo and I'm gonna redo it now that I'm 57. I can still do that with no problem, you know. But
that's awesome. And what about this right here? That's the man that you were talking about earlier, right?
Yeah, that's Grandmaster, that's Supreme Grandmaster Sang-Soo Tiger Kim. I mean, look at that body, bro. Come on, man. I mean, that guy has splits and kicks like nobody's business, you know. He, is legendary. So these are my mentors. I mean, he's my mentor. So what am I supposed to be? As good as possible. Anyway, so Legs says to me, he went and got Kenny. Kenny wasn't really too keen initially about it, but he said, okay, we had to convince him a little bit. At the time, Legs had a lot of people that he could not even talk to at all. But because of Wiggles, he was able to speak to some of them again. You know, so you would see photos of Legs and the crew, but they would have his face like blocked out. You know what I'm saying? From back in the 80s, right?
That's crazy.
And I was teaching him, listen, I was teaching him how to be a professional, how to be a leader, because I had a big staff of people and I had multiple schools. So he liked that part of it. So pretty much I mentored him when it came to that. And he's given me credit publicly a few times, you know, which I appreciate that. But
are you older than Wiggles and Legs?
No. I'm not. Legs is actually 9 days older than me. Because he's January 1st and I'm January 10th.
Oh, okay.
You know, so we were both born in '66. But as you can see, there's that photo where you see Lex DJing and you see my brother and Q Unique and me, and that's Lex's birthday party. You know, a lot of people didn't even remember Battle was there. But so anyway, so Lex, it's me. I'm the newest member of Rocksteady. Mr. Wiggles, Ken Swift, Crazy Legs, and then Wiggles also was down with holy crap, I'm going blank in the name. Jesus Christ. I don't know why I'm going blank. But the other member that was down with Wiggles and the other crew was Quickstep. Man, what's the name of that?
So this picture right here, what's that?
All right, that picture there is Ken Swift right there in the middle, my student, Q Unique, Rocksteady, Mr. Wiggles, Crazy Legs, and myself. So it was shortly.
And you're the one on the top right, right? With the little Jerry curls?
Yes, sir. I'm the closest one to the right. Yeah, and that's me. That was before the Source magazine. That was for a magazine I believe called Paper. And then we also did one in Vibe magazine. But the historical show which I believe I sent you a clip, came out in Visual Music Box. Rhythm technicians, the rhythm technicians.
Yes.
So the rhythm technicians was Mr. Wiggles and that Fables and a whole bunch of people, and Quickstep was down with them. But he also came with Wiggles to do this show. And it was historical, man, because at the time, Quickstep was dancing in the streets too. I believe with Lockatron John and Flow Committee and all the guys, down there with clowns and so on and so forth. And he used to wear this little hat, little black and white hat. He was doing the head spins with that. And it was just so cool. But that day was the first time that we also saw somebody from Europe jump on stage because Lex opened up the door for him. And that was when Maurizio did that famous backdrop slide, a backspin. It was on that stage for Video Music Box. And Q Unique was on the mic. We went on right after KRS-One. And you see me. My whole routine was flips, kicks, and splits. Because to me, as long as I can do the dance routine with everybody else, and I do my solo, because what am I going to do different as a solo? Or better? I'm going to break better than Legs or Kenny? I'm a boogie better than Wiggles?
Yeah, you were doing what you were good at. You were doing what you were good
at. Because to me, hip-hop is always original flavor and style. Plus, for whatever it's worth, we all wanted to be Bruce Lee. So we got that attitude from Bruce everything. That's why the Mugsies that were done by Kenny, he copied that from Bruce Lee, And a lot of people got the sweeps from Kung Fu movies. So I already knew that I was as authentic as anybody else. I didn't have to be sold on me not being what I was, which was original flavor B-boy, because a B-boy at the time was a boogie boy also,
Yes.
Bronx boy, break boy, boogie boy, down with the culture, So I knew I was down by law for real based on what I had done. So I didn't have a low self-esteem problem, but I wasn't intimidated by this.
You had the respect from everyone.
But you know what? But I tell you what I did have. I was intimidated for about 30 seconds. When we were practicing the first time, I said, wait a minute. I look to my right, I see Crazy Legs. I look to my left, I see Ken Swift. Down the way, I see Wiggles. And then the new guy, which was a monster, Quickstep, and me, bro. And then they hit me. Oh man, this is gonna be so dope because nobody can do what I can do the way I do it. But I'm up rocking with people and I do kicks and splits and they can't up rock with me, bro. I'm throwing kicks at them, throwing real punches, doing sweeps, and they're like, yo, this guy, what the hell's going on? They're intimidated because it's real. And then I'm landing in the split, popping up on beat. They could not handle my up rocking. I don't care what anybody says. Yes, it was different from rocking, Brooklyn Rock, or what have you, which personally, I don't like that style. I never really did because it was a little different from what I was used to. I was up to.
Tell me about this. Tell me about this right here. Sorry that I cut you off, but tell me what's this right here. Do you remember that?
Yeah. Watch this. This is a Halloween party. Yep. Halloween party. There you go. That's the original. See, because originally we were miming. Now watch what happens after this. Yeah, this is dope. This is me after I took off my so-called clothing. Yep. There you go. Now you can see that's a New York City boogie boy, right? Oh, it's a little locking. Hey, Yep. That's inside my karate school. Here's some. I like this little move here. And then we got some little. And then we got.
What year was that? What year was that?
That was probably around 93.
And this picture right here, what is it?
Okay, let me tell you something about that photo there. Holy smokes. Okay, you see Q Unique there in the middle with the striped suit. Q Unique did a song called Keep It Coming. Keep It Coming for CNC Music Factory. And then you got Mr. Wiggles there. You got Crazy Legs, and that's Tito G, who was Quickstep's original partner. And that's me in the bottom, FastFeet. But let me tell you something about that night. That night was so important that I wish we had. Would you know that was at the Palladium, right? Performing for Q Unique. And there's two people who were not in that photo. One of them is Kid Freeze.
Wow.
And the other one is Powerful Packstar.
And why aren't they in that picture? Because
I don't understand why that photo. I do not know why Tony Lopez, Mr. Powerful
Let me
Pexter.
see that again. Look at that right there.
Oh, come on now. So again, like I said, I can't claim to be a b-boy. I'm part of hip hop. I do a combination of anything. I won't embarrass myself or anybody else, but anyone knows that at a live party, I'm taking the girl, bro. I'm taking the girl because to me, that's what it was about. That's what it was about. But that day was interesting because Legs got so really good at one point. Politicking wasn't part of it no more. I said, listen, I gave him the concept of how hip hop literally is a worldwide, international, multi-billion-dollar industry, and we didn't have a piece of it because we didn't know the business part of it. Now, Legs was taught by Cool Lady Blue how to do one thing that I was so blown away by him. If you tell Crazy Legs, we have a meeting at 3 o'clock, he'll be there at 2:30. He still never lost that work ethic. Legs is not lazy. He will always show up. And for a minute, he was able to do things that was unheard of. How do you take those three crews? The only thing that's missing was someone from the Incredible Breakers, as far as I go when it comes to New York. That's the only one that was missing in terms of the highest level. But realistically, Rocksteady, New York City Breakers, Dynamic Rockers, all in one show together at the Palladium there. There's a photo that I'll have to send you where Kid Freeze has in Time of the Last Dragon. And of course, he was like, yo, this time up, because the Last Dragon was a huge movie. Everybody wanted to be. Oh, by the way, as a quick rewind, I remember now the other member of the Dynamic Breakers.
What is it?
Tiny. Let me tell you who Tiny was. Tiny literally did the swipe into the 1990 for Lee in the movie Beat Street.
Oh, when they're in the audition stage thing, that he does a top swipe into a 90.
Yes, that's Tiny. Tiny was down with the Dynamic Breakers.
Man, all this time I thought it was Lee.
No, Lee could, Lee couldn't do that. Lee could barely do the windmill.
I thought that was, for some reason, I thought it was Lee. I was like, man, Lee could break too. So now, was that Lee breaking when the battle was going on in Roxy's?
Yeah, he was doing that part. He was doing most of that part, because you can see that that's what they were like, oh, he's cute, he was cute about it. But what was crazy was that he was in the Dynamic Breakers, and if you look in the movie The Last Dragon, where they doing the scene where the Last Dragon comes in and they're in the disco, you will see people up rocking, Boogie Boys, but London from New York City Breakers was in there too.
Wow.
I started a battle during lunchtime. This was 1984, when they wasn't big no more. Now it went more Hollywood. Now it went from B-Boys to what would have been Golden and Globus freaking, Breakin. Mm-hmm. But now they're locking and they calling that breaking and they boogie and they calling that breaking. Everything's not break dance, and now the commercial industry took it over and they had to just make believe that, but there was no real battles no more, and they went Hollywood. But I got them all pumped up. I have a way to get people motivated, and we did a freaking battle during lunch that I wish that was recorded because it was incredible, bro. Incredible.
Who was in there? Who was in that battle?
Again, Dynamic Breakers was there. Now, I'm talking about people going down and battling unofficially, but it was a battle. Everyone was just going off, trying to freaking get their damn props. Tiny was probably... London got down, because London's always been good also, but Tiny, I think, was the one doing things that was more acrobatic than most, because he was a small dude. Because even back then, to do a swipe to the 1990s, people weren't doing that easy, man. That was a hard move at that time. That was like some crazy stuff, if you think about it.
Very advanced for that time.
Yeah, that was super, super advanced for that time.
And you say you're 57 now, correct?
Yep.
Now, what would you tell yourself if you could go back to be a kid again? Let's say if you're let's say before you became a dad and you're living that life of martial arts, learning everything, what is something you will tell yourself if you could go back in the days and you talk to little Jerry Fontanez? What would be something you would tell him?
Well, the first thing I would tell him is that he can do better. Like, I know that if I would have been focused on breaking, because of my flexibility alone, I would have been inventing so many different moves because my ego wouldn't let me to be a biter. I can't be a biter. That's why I always look at things to be original flavor. That's why, again, you see me martial arts wise, combined with the dancing, no one was doing it like that. So I appreciate the fact that I was able to be on beat, be funky and original. The only thing that I would really tell that kid was that he had a little more time, because I didn't know I was gonna live past 30. And I didn't know this consciously, but subconsciously I thought that I had to do things now. So I would have took my time a little more. And by the time I'm 16, I'm going to be a father. That's evidence that I got to hurry up. Now remember, guys, this is the crack era. Boogie Down Bronx, 1982. If you think things are bad now, you're mistaken. In the Bronx, during that time, we're talking about, I know all the notorious bank robbers and stick-up kids and freaking dealers and so on and so forth. They're just friends.
What were the top gangs around that time? At that time, do you remember from your...
It wouldn't be gangs, because back then they didn't have gangs. See, we looked at gangs like California, we laughed at them. Like, what the hell are you talking about? Like, when we seen the movie Colors, we're like, yo, that shit's played out, because the gangs were in the 70s. So by the time...
this is the 80s now.
Yeah, so we're talking about the 80s, it was crews, not gangs, crews. So the first crew that was all over was Casanova, all over. Casanova crew. That's why when you hear Grandmaster Caz, he's part of the Casanova. So they got rid of what would have been the colors, which was Lee, iron-on letters, with patches and stuff like that, and it became sweatshirts with iron-on letters. So the top, so it was crews, and then the crews were known for being not so much just it was just a talent, like the Unstoppable Crew as an example. DJ, MC, dancers, and then the stick-up kids do security, so they don't rob you. So everyone has a job. Everybody has a job.
The hell?
Yeah, that's the way you do it. Yeah, the stick-up kids now, they're going to let you get stuck up, but you know what they will do?
And you see a big difference now from the era of now and back then, correct?
Oh, there's oil and water. The difference was that back then, there was respect for talent. You literally had to be good at something to get props. And the props came from the battle. Hip-hop is about the battle, whether you battle your MC battle, DJ battle, break battle, graffiti battle, and then if you didn't have those talents at that level, then you're just a fly guy. That means you battling with your clothes. You battling with your car. You battling with your, if you play slug, if you play stickball, if you play basketball, you're a ghetto superstar based on your skills. Yes, it did include if you was a dealer, but that was a little different because, the same guys that couldn't make it in entertainment because they had some street cred, they became the top dealers at one point because at least they had some money to start off some drugs. So that's the sad thing about it, that the crack era took away so many of our so-called legends. And then after they did a play called So What Happens Now? Rocksteady did a play, or Broadway play called So What Happens Now? And in one of the scenes, Ken Swift says, when he goes to a job application and they ask about his skills, he says, I spin on my head. You can't go too far with that. That's why, to me, it drove me crazy how both in martial arts and in hip hop in the late 80s, pioneers and legends of great martial artists or great MCs or dancers were broke. They were still living with moms in the project. And I was like, bro, I don't even have a GED, but I got people with PhDs working for me. And in 1992, I even spoke in NYU. So what you gonna do? So my whole thing was that I wanted to become a black belt in business and how to be a black belt father and be a black belt in life. So when I started, when I got down with legs and Rocksteady, all I wanted to do was honestly do my part to motivate someone who I think that they had unfinished business. Unbeknownst to me, that became the biggest era of what happens with breaking. The third generation of the breaking is the biggest, which is now, or fourth, whatever you want to call it. Because, and they all came from not the 1970s, not the 1980s, and I can say this with no hesitation, because if anyone wants to keep it real, they were not in the Palladium breaking, locking, popping, and boogieing with Rocksteady, New York City breakers, and dynamic rockers, Mr. Headspin himself. That's history. Anything that comes now is after that fact. When Legs went out to Europe the first time, they thought he was dead, bro. That was the rumor, because they hadn't seen any breakers. And these guys knew their history. You had guys that were coming down here. The only ones that never stopped breaking were down in the streets. 42nd
Oh, you know
Street,
that
Times
battle
Square.
squad from Germany and Italy.
Yeah.
In
No, I
the
remember
early
them.
90s, and they were hitting with clowning
hold
them,
on,
right?
Hold on a second. Yeah, he wrote, how about this? Literally, he's the first person who wrote my name in that history. You know what I'm saying?
Who?
The main guy from Battle Squad.
Oh,
From
Storm?
Germany. Storm, yeah, Bboy Storm. Yeah, Bboy Storm.
He wrote it where? Where did he write it?
He wrote a book in German and translated to English about breaking, about the whole way. He talks about clown. He talks about all those freaking people, bro. He mentions me in the damn book.
I gotta search for that book now.
Oh no, yeah, bro. It's crazy because I got props from that, and then Legs used to say it at the Rocksteady anniversary, but never when I was there, which is so weird. He even said it on Tony Touch show, but he never said it when I was there. I always thought that I needed the props, bro. I don't need props from anybody that's not earned. But if you keep it real, like I'll give you an example. And I love so many people, but I'll mention a few names. Smirk was a student for a little while, no question. Smirk, I love Smirk because he was making money. He was making money doing graffiti pieces in stores, and so he was making, young kid making freaking money. Loved it. He was a student of two people, Ken Swift and Leg. So he had a combination of both. That's why when you see a lot of things that he does, that's Ken Swift's flavor. When he starts doing the funking and other stuff, that's Ken Swift's flavor. But then he was also down with Legs. Legs Almighty, when he came from Maryland, before he changed the name to, again, bro, these kids are all around. You understand? And they're being respectful, I must say. Then you had other people that, to me, I didn't feel comfortable being around with them because I know myself. I'd rather be a comedian than to get serious. So I don't want to be around those freaking bums. I don't want to be around a drunk. I don't want to be around someone that's, brash. Now, some people have substance abuse, but they were cool in a gang, and I never had problems with them at all. I love Frosty Freeze. That was my man. He was a great freaking thing. Love that guy. That's why I sent you a photo of Frosty Freeze. Mr. Freeze, I love that guy. Mr. Freeze has so much footage of what? Of when my school on Broadway was used to train and work out for Jam on the Groove.
That's right.
Okay, so that was my school on Broadway between 55th and 54th Street. So there's footage of whether it was Kenny, but the one who has most of the footage is Mr. Freeze himself, Mark. Well, he has all of that freaking footage. He even has his dog used to break and used to freaking use those little I mean, it was just awesome. But again, I know that my influence was because I was a professional, and because of that, I was able to convey something that was very important. An art is an art is an art. When I went down to NYU representing the Nomads, rest in peace, my brother, MC Beretta, and Q Unique, they were known as the Nomads. They were part of VIP Records, and VIP Records was started by one of my students, and it's because I would end the class and I would ask people a question like, what would you do if you knew it was impossible to fail? And my student Randy came to me. He says, sir, I want to start a record label. I said, well, I gave him 2 books, one by Kashif and Spearman, which is how to start your own record label. And he did. And he got a partner, Al Pizarro, who had a record pool. And then he says,
what year was that? What year was that?
92. And then he says to me, I need a group. I said, I got a group. And at the time, we didn't have a name for the Nomads. They were going to be sticker kids. There were no types of stuff. They ended up being the Nomads. And then I made them some shirts. And so I was like their acting manager until they went and got some management. Because again, I'm busy. I'm like, I got a staff. I got schools in Bronx, Brooklyn, Queens, Manhattan. I'm freaking paying freaking staff. I got, I'm dealing with real estate, like no joke, like real serious stuff. And so on my side, I would try to help out as much as possible. And it was incredible times. Fast forward to a few years after, and he said to me just the other day, man, Kid Glide said to me, man, if I would have listened to you way back when, because when I said to them, listen, you guys are being paid, being performers. That means that you hired help, like a call girl. You're a stripper. You're whoever they call you. If they don't call you, you can't go have a show. You make money being an educator, teach people how to dance, MC, graffiti, DJ, etc. So when I have a logo of me throwing the kick straight to the top, but there's also a logo.
Is that one right there? Boom.
There's a guy. Yeah, that's not the logo. That's the photo of the silhouette that becomes the logo. So the answer is yes. That's the original photo of what becomes the logo for, actually, here's on my pants. See that? Right.
Yes, I see. It's like the NBA.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the NBA doesn't have black in the logo, but that's exactly what that's Jerry West, and that's Jerry FastFeet Fontanez. That's the difference between the NBA. They only got red, white, and blue, and I got black. So I became a manufacturer of clothes. Like right now, I'm in my uniform as we speak.
Well, I know you built a big school because you were everywhere. In fact, there's a picture right there in 93.
Yeah, well, at that time, that was, I mean, that year we won the world championships. My students won lightweight, middleweight, and I won the light heavyweight world championship. So we were the first school ever in the history of martial arts to have 3 world titles in 3 different weight categories, and that was the year 1993. By 1994, between 93 and 94, I started doing my own TV show on Bronx Net, and I did 24 episodes that aired and 25 total. So what I was doing was, it was martial arts and hip hop. Basically, it was my students, my family and friends that I was exposing to try to teach them how to become professionals. Because again, when I spoke in NYU, it was about music business. I said, no, you got it backwards. It's called business and then whatever else. Business is the first part. That means you have to dot the I's, cross the T's, get there early, negotiate a deal, something that makes sense, and make sure you cover your butt. Don't get emotional, get technical. And that'll make a world of a difference. That's why a lot of people, when they got into business, they started nonprofit organizations and stuff like that, and then end up getting in trouble, because they don't really know how to follow the nonprofit business. So I'd rather go for profit. That's just the way I did it. Not that, that's not that you have to, but I knew that there was so much space for improvement. So to see that today Breakin is going to the Olympics and all the stuff that's happening, I don't agree with a lot of the stuff, but that's okay.
That was actually my next question. What is your opinion on Breakin going to the Olympics?
Well, first of all, let's think about really what it is. It's impossible. So the impossible is happening. You took a bunch of bums that they don't have a pot to piss in the throw, a window to throw it out of, meaning hip hop, that comes from the gang culture, and the division of it now goes to what would be the International Olympic Committee, worldwide, official. So what I like about it is that it's impossible for that to happen. So that means there's been a lot of progress, and you got to give props. I know people get upset, but the Europeans are the ones that really made it happen. I think Storm had a lot to do with it. And again, it's not my industry as detailed as it used to be, but I can't say one thing. Those guys took it serious. They respected it from not just a cultural standpoint, because they know the history. They were doing their stuff. If it wasn't for the Europeans, it would never have happened, because the Americans didn't give a damn about freaking breaking. They made fun of us as far back as 1979. So let's keep it real. So when guys start talking, the artists are the ones that are saying it shouldn't be put in that platform. Yeah, No doubt about it. And those are the guys that can't even dance no more, and they can't even see their freaking, their belly. Their belly, they can't see their toes. So people that have opinions because they're not involved no more, so that's just ego-based. What I love is that you have children of all ages worldwide now that have a common denominator. You got grandparents and parents and grandchildren who can actually turn around and have a great time and be respected for something that they love. It's always been about family. Martial arts to me also is helping people get home safe. Well, you get home safe when you have street credibility for doing something that people respect. Doesn't have to be for fighting, and they'll be, leave him alone. He's not down with, he's not down with that. They'll protect you if you're the basketball player, if you're the, whatever it is. So I love that fact. But what saddens me the most is how many of the so-called pioneers and legends just never got their shit together, man, mentally. And I know that a lot of them are heartbroken, and they should be heartbroken, but how about if I say this? You're old enough, get your shit together. First, learn how to speak English. Learn how to speak English. Learn how to articulate your freaking language. So like that you can inspire and motivate others. And I hope and I pray that you wake the hell up and understand that I don't care what age you are, you're still alive, you're still getting the best shape ever. And the knowledge that you have from whether it's the 70s, the 80s, or the 90s, oh my God, if you properly package that, they will love to hear it because it's part of their history and culture. But if you come at them with an attitude, like, yo, that shit is whack, who's not going to respond? Come on, man. When we were young with
testosterone. You feel they're bitter? You feel they're bitter?
They're bitter with good reason. Because when they look in the mirror, they realize they messed up. But what I'm saying is that not really. You still got a chance that you're here. Think about this. The mob heads back in the days was a big crew. They were doing house music combined with what would have been the equivalent to maybe hip-hop. Hip-hop dancing, right? Which is a whole other facade, right? Remember the time they do the whole routine that Wiggles and Fables did. So that was a bite.
Yes.
To me. That was done by Stretch. He was the actual, one of the leaders of the mob heads. And he choreographed that. Now, I told Wiggles, bro, what the hell? Become a choreographer. He didn't want to, which was fine. Props to Wiggles, because if it wasn't for Wiggles, the reunion would have never happened. Wiggles has always been a true blue connector of people, so that's made the difference. That's why, Fables was able to become vice president for years with Rocksteady. That's the reason why Mr. Freeze came around, because Lex was not easy to deal with. It was easier to deal with when I was around because I was showing him other things. But I cannot say that, Legs and I were like brothers to the point where if I loan him money, I'm getting it back with no hesitation. If we go eat, I pay or he pays, or we both pay. You know what I'm saying? So he's a true blue. When they rented my spot, I'm getting paid. I don't even have to ever second guess. Whatever happened years after that, I don't really know, and I can't attest to that. But I can say that, literally, this guy's work ethic is impeccable, and he's a straight shooter. Whether you like it or not, he wasn't trying to lie if he did, because he believed that shit. When he was doing it. That's why when you have the conflict between if Breakin was just kept with the 6-step and that flavor without having the power moves and all that other stuff, how many people would still be involved in it? That means we still would have been doing all that old stuff. And I know that's one of those arguments between the first generation, or I should say the second generation of breakers, because that would have been the late 70s, early 80s. But I believe that, I know that all of that was important. When Wicked got the award for breaking with, it was Wicked and another, I'm going blank at his name right now, oh my God. But he was down with
Wicked from Chicago or Wicked from California?
California Wicked, that's still breaking like crazy too. I'm proud of him. Yeah,
he's a DJ too now.
Yeah. He came into my car. I had a ride, so everybody used to come, and I told them, I forgot what the conversation. Oh, I told them, listen, you should be teaching. I was telling everybody you should be teaching because we learned how to become karate instructors from dance studios, Arthur Murray Dance and Fred Astaire Dance. So the whole concept of having a mirror and the floor, that comes from dancing. So I'm like, you guys, we're already dancing, so let's teach dancing, you know, and different styles of dancing. Well, you got 4 different styles. You can teach them how to lock, how to up rock, how to lock, break. Wait.
Popping.
Yeah, lock, break, popping or boogaloo, and then wait, what the hell am I missing? Breaking, boogie, up rocking, and locking. Yeah. You can teach different styles, different levels, have tournaments, all that stuff. I laid that all out way back when, and they didn't see it. Because I said, you can't be going up, can I get a job? There's so many people who could be on that freaking music video on that damn stage. What are you doing? Have your location, have a home, teach everybody, and you can still go in the weekends and do what the hell you have to do. That's the way I looked at it. And I still look at it right now. You know, so some of my students, as you know, they became real good students and teachers. We talk about, you know, SB the anomaly. That's Ian. Little Ian becomes, you know, a freaking, or you call him Bam Bam. Here he is, learns how to dance. He can MC with the best of them. He can freestyle, doesn't drink, doesn't smoke. Freaking, you know, he's doing his damn thing. He's a comedian. He's freaking hilarious. You know, doesn't have any children yet, whatever the case may be. But the point is that I know that we influence a lot of people because of the art, not just negatively. Positively can be done also too. And I think that's really what's sad because a lot of the guys that were first generation didn't know how to take that energy they had, that they spent in the dancing. So that's why they got all messed up. You know, when guys were coming up and they were blasted, and I'm like, I'm trying to have a conversation with somebody. You know what I'm saying? Not me. You know what I'm saying? No, but I don't know what you're saying, and I don't know what you mean. And I was insulted. You know what I mean?
So,
like, stop that.
So what is something people seem to misunderstand about you?
The number one thing that most people misunderstand about me is that they think that it's an ego that I have. They say, man, this guy, you know, he has this ego. Because I know that I have a larger than life personality. But it's because I'm excited about things. I'm excited about being alive, bro. How many people died, including my brother? So when I do things, I do it with urgency because we don't know how much time we have. Like, so I thought I was gonna be dead by age 30. So when someone says, yo, we do that tomorrow. Tomorrow? Why tomorrow? So we're here right freaking now. Well, what do you mean tomorrow? How about we don't have it tomorrow? How many tomorrows do we freaking have? So they were passive about things, and life is not passive. Life is brutal. Life is scary. Life is limited. So I don't care about who you are, how strong you are. You don't know when you're not going to be here. So the only opportunity that you have, see, I can get metaphysical with the fact of the matter is there's no such thing as time. It's only called the present. It's called the past because you compare it to what will be the present because they're all relative. There's no future. It's called the present because that's also as compared to. So everything is present. And what present means? A gift. It's a gift. This is a gift. So what we're going to turn around and freaking, delay it? Today we had an opportunity to test our intestinal fortitude and perseverance. It took us almost 2 hours, about 4 different takes for this to happen. So you got an attitude of success. We spoke about it. We're martial artists. You think I'm going to get discouraged? Heck no, that's not going to happen. So when the average person doesn't have that attitude, then there's something wrong with us. Damn, that guy's too pushy, bro. Yo, he didn't take no finesse. Yo, I was trying to chill. Yo, you got excusitis. Excusitis is a freaking illness that most people have, and artists have it all the time because an artist basically is a prima donna. They want people to love them for what they can do and express themselves. Bro, you got there late. Yeah, but that's no. Do not mess around with people's time. That's why when you sent me the link, I'm on it. technology trying to challenge me, and I'm like, you know what? I'm not gonna let that negative energy get me. I was just hoping that you was gonna continue to persevere, because to me, no, this is something that's so important.
Now, what was I telling you? What was I telling you during?
This
all
is my
going
point.
on?
You're saying what you was trying to do was keep me on course. Stay the course. Please understand. And you gave a comparison to people in the past. And remember, for whatever it's worth, I've been interviewing people since 1993, 1994. In martial arts, when someone like Billy Bland, when they got the Geico commercial about 2 years ago, and they were all over the place, Geico. And my man Michael Jai White, when he had the #1 movie on Netflix. Within 24 hours of those two things happening, I interviewed both of them, because I thought that would have been a different interview to get. You have to deal with their management or agents. But no, those are my boys. Yo, let's do it now. And I interviewed them. When you see a movie like American Ninja, and it's written by the #1 martial arts superstar, Mike Stone, before even Chuck Norris, and he turns around and he does a movie called, he writes Enter the Ninja, and he stars as the top villain of American Ninja. Well, he is the first martial arts superstar, and I put him on a Zoom call. He had never done that before. That's called an impossible interview to have. You know, I sent you a little one of a girl who I'm there's two women that I adore like what they are, my sisters in the arts. And only because I met her first, the first one had to be Anita. Anita is Rockefeller.
Shout out to Rockefeller, and
Now,
hopefully
her
I get to interview her.
Her husband, Quickstep, that's my man. And I knew them way before they were married, as you know. But and to me, that's probably the best husband-wife dance crew ever. If they had husband-wife, I don't know who's gonna beat them. I mean, let's keep it real.
Yeah.
That would be hard.
They put the pedestal very high, and as a couple, because me myself, I've been with my wife for 17 years, and I look at them as like a staple, same as Honey Rockwell and Orko now.
Well, okay. So this is how it goes, right? So Anita, when I met Anita, and again, I call her Rockefeller sometimes, but that's Anita, right? She's Anita to me. She literally had another boyfriend and was dancing in the streets. It was house. She could dance anything. Now, when you bring in Honey Rockwell, that's a different thing. She comes from gymnastics. And she also comes from what would be traditional dance like ballet. Mm-hmm. So she was different, but the flexibility made it different. But what both those ladies have is a work ethic. They knew they were part of an industry that was male dominant, and they had to get their freaking props, and they were not lazy in their learning. And Honey Rockwell, as an example, never called it practice. She said, we're gonna go work out, we're gonna go work out, we're gonna go work out. To her, it was a workout. Yes. Yeah, it's a workout. And I love that. I even had her in my karate school in New Jersey when I ended up over there. She was teaching for a while. You know, so she's been an educator for a minute. You know, so those two women to me are the twin pillars of Breakin. I'm not talking about men or women.
So you will say they're an example for any B-girl out there if they want to learn work ethics and just perseverance and patience, and all that.
No, it wouldn't be B-girls. It'll be breakers, because the men will learn more. The bullshit that they had to deal with, if men were able to deal with what those women literally are queens that they continue to earn it. Okay, continue to. Listen, this is the only difference. One of them went through what would have been the nonprofit route with her husband. And who do you think was Honey Rockwell's mentor to run a successful dance studio in Atlanta? Okay? Orko always thanks me over and over again. I'm the one that broke it down.
You're one of them. Because every time I talk, she's my sister right there. And every time I speak to her, she always mentions you.
But this is my point, because what I saw when she called me, as a matter of fact, when she just had the big 50 birthday, I'm gonna say it. She called me the next day because she was having a hard time dealing with that. She was also having a hard time dealing with what would have been a business owner. And she knew who to call. And I'm so proud because literally it's the impossible. How many people who started when those two girls started are gone?
Yes.
And if they're alive, they can't even see their toes. Now, on top of that, think about how many shows they continue to freaking do in one capacity or another. Because, you know, those girls, I love them. Now, what broke my heart the most was in the beginning because they freaking used them against each other and it used to drive me freaking crazy. That was the biggest no-no. I did not like that. I did not like that. I did not like that. And that was during the time where I couldn't be any influence because I was more like the businessman who now I'm the fly on the wall. I'm not involved in the same capacity. They're still using my place. So I'll show you a photo where you see Anita and Honey Rockwell in the same photo, and it's in my karate school, and so on and so forth. So that, you know, which was interesting. But what they did to those two girls, putting them against each other, was a freaking disgusting thing to me, personally. However, what beautiful thing! Think about this. One has a bunch of children, the other has none. So they're opposites in so many different ways. So it shows a perspective how they can still benefit from what would have been being women, but from two different perspectives. You know? So they're the two most respected breakers to me, period.
Amazing. And I agree with you 1,000%. 1,000%. I met Rockefeller. She went to my high school when I was, I believe, a junior or sophomore, and she was teaching in a classroom with her husband.
That's FastFeet right there, the original FastFeet. That's my mom.
Oh snap! Shout out to the original FastFeet.
Yeah, but I'm doing an interview. It was important. Listen, I'm down to 5%. So for
okay, so this is what we're gonna do right now. Yeah. If you could be remembered for one thing, what would it be?
If I could be remembered for one thing, what would it be? It would be really simple. Against all odds, in spite of what would be our mental limitations, you can prove to yourself what I believe, and this is what I believe. I believe that God gives the gift of life. What you do with that gift is your gift back. And I've always wanted to make sure that I showed the gratitude and appreciation for my God-given skills and moments in this freaking life. And it's a sin when you take that and disregard it, which includes doing wrong knowingly, which is called sin. And sin means missing the mark. So to be an example of possibility with the intention of doing what I know is the truth and I've known since the beginning of time. We're the greatest creation by the Creator. And our representation makes us lords of this realm, and it's between your ears. I always walk to tournaments making believe like I already won grand champion because I began with the end in mind. How can I ever, with no GED, have people with PhDs work for me? How can I travel the world multiple times? And at age 57 now, I'm fighting guys 40 years younger and beating them because I know there's no such thing as time. So I want to be an example of possibility, not by talking. Time is an action. So that's it. Being what would be what we're supposed to be. The image of the Creator. When you're being creative, you're being in one with the Creator. And I'm not talking about religion, I'm talking about the truth. We're not, some people believe that humans can have a spiritual experience. We're spirits having a human experience. And when you understand that, they know that they can't touch you because you're too internal and external. The only reason why this is what would be this photo, because of the mathematical equation right now that's creating what would be this frequency, and that's what you see in this. If this was another lens, you would have seen nothing but energy, because we're made up mostly of water, and that's energy. Without being metaphysical, it's just a simple fact. Regardless of what style of martial arts, what style of art it is, it's the truth. We are phenomenal, and most people act as if we ain't shit. So they're right, and I don't like that part. High standards.
Man, that was amazing. That's an amazing exit of the show. Wow, I'm so honored, and you don't even understand. I've just in this couple of hours that we've been going through back and forth with troubleshooting, which is all good because it teaches us and it reminds us that we need to stay strong and keep it moving. Even obstacles show up in front of us. And Jerry,
wait, that's how we get stronger. Wait, that's how we get stronger, right? So the fact of the matter is that that's how we get stronger, with opportunities to grow, not problems, opportunity to grow. Listen, we didn't get a chance to talk about a whole bunch of stuff, but I can say this. I'm going to give props to my man, Forrest Gump, because Forrest did mention me for whatever it's worth. He doesn't remember the explicit detail of how we actually met, but the truth of the matter is that on a Wednesday night, when he came over to my karate school and I was getting ready to leave, he came with me in a taxi ride because I didn't want to drive to the Zulu Nation meeting every 2 weeks. While going there, the cop stopped us on the sporadic stop, and then we continued. I said, I'm fat. I mentioned who I was, and they're all okay, and then they let us go. And then from there, history was made. All those other additional things we mentioned about other stuff, I don't know all those details, but I know one thing. When Forrest came, it was not for martial arts. It was for martial arts. And then from there, man, when he was DJing for BAM, I was proud of him with all the stuff that he did. So I got to give props to.
Thank you, brother. Thank you. Now I'm gonna give you your own screen, and I want you to tell everyone, what are you up to these days? Where can people find you and connect with you? So take it away, my brother.
Okay, so this is Grandmaster Jerry FastFeet Fontanez. So for whatever it's worth, my intentions is what I did before, except now it's even more powerful. I'm 57 years young or 12 years old. I'd rather be 12 years old. That's why you see me still wearing the hat on the side. So my goal is to continue leading by example. I have a program called the FastFeet Forever program. It's about food, focus, fitness, and flexibility and finance. FastFeet Forever. I'm easily found at Jerry FastFeet, any Google search, but you might get confused. You see me as an educator, as a motivator. You also see me as a martial artist. You also see me as a dancer and as a parent, which I've done some incredible stuff like that too. So I'm easy to find. My intention is to help people achieve their lifetime dreams and goals via two things: martial arts and dance. So what I will be doing more of is dancing, because my body has the collagen that it needs now, so my joints don't hurt any longer, baby. So I can do what needs to be done.
Okay. Well, Jerry, thank you very much. I appreciate you, and this is the reason why I do this show, to give you the flowers now that you're here in the present moment, as you said. We're doing this right now, and you are a gift to this world. Let me tell you, you've been an inspiration for so long, not only to me, but to so many people around the world. They might not tell you that, but trust me, they're out there talking about you, brother. But thank you, brother. I appreciate you, man. And ladies and gentlemen, that is Jerry, the furious FastFeet Fontanez. I go by the name of Flashback. Anything else you want to say, Jerry?
Listen, I'm proud of you, and I got to give props to anyone who has been involved with you, because 1 + 1 could be 2, but 1 + 1 could be 11. That's synergy. That's what it's all about. Us one.
Thank you, brother. Thank you, man. I appreciate it, and I'll give you a call tomorrow. Thank you very much, man.
Hey, real quick. When I say AB, you say see ya. AB.
See ya.
We out of here.
All right, peace, y'all.